and their feet make a circle. And it's just a beautiful picture of unity. And I wish I'd had room on the handout to put that picture. There was an anthropologist who proposed a game to children of an African tribe. He put a basket of fruit near a tree and told the kids the first one to reach the fruit would win all of them. When he told them to run, they all took each other's hands and ran together. And they sat down together enjoying the fruit. When asked why they ran like that, since the one winner could take all of the fruit, they said, Ubuntu. U-B-U-N-T-U, Ubuntu. How can one of us be happy if all the others are sad? In certain regions of South Africa, when someone does something wrong, he's taken to the center of the village and surrounded by his tribe for 2 days while they speak of all the good that he has done. They believe each person is good, yet sometimes we make mistakes, which is really a cry for help. They unite in this ritual to encourage the person to reconnect with his true nature. The belief is that unity and affirmation have more power to change behavior than shame or punishment. This is known as Ubuntu, a philosophy of African tribes that can be summed up as, I am because we are. And I think this is relevant to us as Christians, especially. I think the whole world, but we as Christians can consider this when we look at the gifts of the Spirit. The first slide on your sheet has the 4 passages that mention spiritual gifts in the Bible. I'm not going to look at all of them. You can look at them if you want to. Some passages mention 7 gifts. Some mention 12. I believe that there's more gifts than those that are just listed in those 4 verses. I think that we have gifts far and beyond what the Scriptures. I don't think the Scriptures limited itself to just those gifts. The next slide, these are the gifts that are listed in the 4 passages. And I'm going to go through them quickly. We have the gift of prophecy. This is a forth teller, not a future teller. This is someone that knows the past history. They see present happenings, and then they understand the bigger picture. They instruct, they warn, they correct, they forecast the end results. We have administration, the gift of administration or leadership. Now this is not controlling or domineering leadership. The idea is to share information and to share power with others. They enable other people to realize and accomplish their goals in the church and beyond, I believe. The gift of encouragement, also called exhortation. These are people who come alongside others to help. It's not a fix-it person, but a travel alongside person. We have the gift of giving. Now we're all commanded to give, but one person has a gift of giving, gives freely with a special measure and delight to further God's work in the world. We have the gift of wisdom. This is being in tune with the heart of God. These people weigh all the circumstances in complex situations to find the deeper truth. The gift of wisdom is different than the gift of knowledge, which is the ability to stretch beyond the facts and figures to search, make sense of, and bring together the teaching of God for people's lives. So knowledge has to do more with facts and figures. Wisdom is more of an intuitive process. We have a gift of compassion. This is the ability to empathize with others, to stand in their shoes, and then respond in ways that help others on their journey. A helper is one who assists or lends a hand in times of need. This is not what we should do, but what we can do to help others to know what they can do in life, not what they should do. The gift of faith is the ability to daily see God's will, coupled with the confidence to do it. We can see it and not do it. But faith includes having the confidence to act out, to step into a situation. A pastor, this is also shepherd, is a spiritual guide. It's one who helps sustain others on their spiritual journey. They work with folks at different places on their journeys. A teacher has the ability to clearly and effectively apply the truth of Jesus Christ. A teacher may not have the gift of teaching. Some scriptures show pastor-teachers hyphenated, that somebody is a pastor-teacher together. Others have it separate. I did have a woman in the first congregation that I served. She was a kindergarten teacher, and she also had the gift of teaching. And the first thing she wanted to do after we learned about the gifts of the Spirit was to have a class on the gifts of the Spirit for everyone in the church, because we did it in a smaller group. The gift of miracles. This is when a person is able to act contrary to natural law in extraordinary ways when God's hand miraculously intervenes. The gift of evangelism is not the person standing on the street corner yelling about Scripture. Evangelism communicates the gospel message through word and deed, and I think it's through a gentle, kind way. That's my belief. The gift of discernment is the ability to distinguish between truth and error, justice and injustice, what is authentic and genuine, and what is phony. Some people don't have the gift of discernment, and they get caught up there. We think of them as gullible or naive, or they just don't see a broader picture. But there are people that have that gift of discernment, can just focus right in and know whether somebody's telling them the truth or not. The gift of healing is the ability to allow God to work through us as an instrument for the healing of illness and the restoration of a person's physical, mental, and spiritual health. The gift of tongues. Now, in that first church I served, I had a man there. I was in my late 40s. He was just 40. And all of his years of going to church, he'd never heard of the gift of tongues, ever. And so we had someone come from the Assembly of God Church to talk about his experience of the gift of tongues, because he grew up with it. He was very comfortable with it. On Pentecost, tongues were spoken in different languages that were not normally spoken by the speakers. There's also verbal utterances that praise God but are not understood by human ears. Except there are people that have the gift of interpretation, and this is the ability to translate when a foreign language is spoken. Also the ability to interpret the non-linguistic sounds so the message is understood. And my understanding is that if somebody in a church has the gift of tongues, it's not to be used unless there is someone with a gift of interpretation in the church, because it's of no use to anybody because they can't understand it unless there's an interpreter in the congregation. Otherwise, it elevates that person with a gift of tongues without really giving a message to the church. So, I like to think of combining the gifts of the Spirit with our life passions. And on the next slide, there is a conglomeration of possible life passions. A person might really be interested in encouraging others, or they have a gift of creativity. And that could be in arts, it could be in the kitchen, it could be in writing. There are a lot of ways that creativity can be lived out. It could be in parenting and children, it could be in sports, it could be in spirituality and healing. There are a lot of things that we might have a passion for. And seeing how our gift of the Spirit fits with our passion is really interesting, I think. The next slide, number 4, shows how we can discover our passions in life. These are just a few of the ways. One is to look for the high points in your day. What really excites you during the day? What do you do that's fun, that's interesting, that you just lose yourself in time? Pay attention to where you spend your money and your time. Pull out your checkbook or your credit card bill or whatever, and look to see where you spend your money and what is most interesting to you. A lot of mine is gas and groceries, so it's not there. 3, consider topics you love to teach or talk about with others. That might be your passion. Think about your strengths. What are your strengths? ask your friends. Now that's a scary thing. I was about 34, 35, and I read a book about passion, about gifts, and it said, go and ask your friends what they thought about you, about me. And that was really, really scary. And I talked to about 6 people. And the thing that kept coming up was I was an encourager. And I do believe that I am an encourager and that I am a listener. So what they said back to me was not so scary. But I don't know what might have happened if it had been something that, oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't see that in myself. But it's sort of ingrained in me that that's who I am. Number 6, brainstorm the activities that you look forward to doing. 7, write down the values that are important to you. You can rekindle childhood passions. There are things that we do as children that we just kind of poo-poo as we grow up, but they were important to us as kids. Maybe little kids, maybe teenagers, that might still interest and show what our passion is. We can reach out to possible mentors. I have a friend in Salina. We have a mutual friend. And my first friend went to the second friend and said, I would like for you to mentor me. I'd like to meet with you once a month and just share what's going on in my life and hear what you have to say and how I might be directed, sort of like a spiritual director. You can also invest time in those things that interest you. Those are some ways to discover the passions in your life. The next couple of slides show how we link our spiritual gifts to our passion. In the first slide, number 5, we have Bonnie, Kurt, and Lynn. They all have different passions. Bonnie is passionate about senior citizens. Kurt wants to help the homeless, and Lynn appreciates discipleship, helping people in their Christian discipleship. They all have the same spiritual gift of teaching. And there's possible areas where they can live out their passions and their gift. For Bonnie, with senior citizens, she could lead Bible studies in retirement homes. She could teach a Sunday school class. Didn't get the whole thing on there, did I? She could teach Sunday school classes about aging, about the process of aging. Kurt, who's interested in the homeless, he might lead devotionals in homeless shelters. He might teach Sunday school classes on homelessness. And Lynn, who is interested in discipleship, she might be a small group leader. She might be a mentor, like I mentioned earlier. She might write self-guided training programs on how to be a good Christian. So those are some ways, if we have different passions but the same spiritual gift, that it could be lived out. The next slide shows how people have the same passion but different gifts. So John, Nancy, and Mary all have a passion for children with difficult life situations. John's gift is administration, Nancy's is giving, and Mary's is teaching. John, who has the gift of administration, might organize events to serve children. He might coordinate classes and training. He might facilitate transportation. So he might be in the administration arena of helping children, not actually working with children one-on-one, because that might not be his gift, but being in charge of helping things happen. Nancy, whose gift is giving, she might fund a program and materials for children. She might adopt a child or a family, or she could support training for volunteers to work with children. Mary, whose gift is teaching, she could teach parents and guardians how to work with children, especially those that have difficult life situations. She could lead a study about children, or she could start a class for children with difficult life situations. So those are a few of the ways that passion and gifts of the Spirit can fit together in life. The next slide talks about the Myers-Briggs type indicator. Are you familiar with the Myers-Briggs? Joyce, is anybody else? It's one, and Debbie, it's one way of understanding ourselves in a deeper way. In the Myers-Briggs, there are 8 characteristics divided up into 4 pairs, and they're listed in slide 7. The extrovert, introvert, sensing, intuitive, thinking, feeling, judging, and perceiving. The extrovert, introvert is where we get our energy. An extrovert loves being around people, loves talking to people, has to talk to people to work things out in their own head. They often are the last ones to leave a party or a get-together. An introvert often works things out in their own head. I have a friend who spent a year in her own head realizing that she was called to be a pastor, and it was a whole year later that she told her husband, I want to be clergy and I'm going to go to seminary. There was no conversation with him about it. This is what she was called to do, and she figured it out for herself. An introvert is not the wallflower hiding against the wall. I am an introvert. I'm an extroverted introvert. Many pastors are introverted, but we're kind of forced to be extroverted because we work with people so much. But I love being around people. I love talking with people. I love learning about people. But I need my quiet space, my quiet time. I worked with a couple that they were going to get married. He was an extrovert, she was an introvert. They rode in the same car on the way to work, and they worked at the same place, and then they drove home together, and he was the extrovert. He was ready to talk about his day, and she just needed time away. And we figured out if she could have 15 minutes of her own when she got home from work, she could sit and listen to his extroverted conversation as much as he wanted to, but she needed that time away. Thinking, feeling. Now, thinkers feel and feelers think. Thinkers, this is how we evaluate information and make decisions. Oh, I missed one. Let me go back to sensing and intuition. Sensing and intuition, this is how we take in information. A sensing personality is somebody that likes facts and figures. They want hands-on. They want to read a book about it. They want to read the instructions. They want to know all about things. An intuitive person is someone that instead of an adding machine where you punch in the numbers and pull the handle, it's more like a computer where the answer just comes up and you're not sure how it got there. Like you type something into the computer and suddenly you want to know something, you type it in and all these resources come back at you. That's what an intuitive person is more like. It's how we take in information, how we process information. Thinking and feeling. This is how we evaluate information and we make decisions. A thinking person makes decisions based on facts, based on logistics, based on this is the best way. A feeling person makes decisions based on how are other people going to be impacted by this. And in the church, as well as in the business world, we need both thinking and feeling people, because people can get hurt if everything is just based on logic and there's no organization and everything's just built on feelings. Judging and perceiving. I don't like the term judging. This came out of a Swedish resource, Carl Jung, and the best word, judging was the best translation for the Swedish word. I call them J personalities, because judging doesn't mean they're judgmental. It doesn't even make sense to the description that I'm going to give you. So I call them J personalities and perceiving personalities. This is lifestyle preferences. A J personality is somebody that's very structured. I have a granddaughter who is a J personality. I know this because if she asks me what time it is, and I tell her, well, it's almost noon, that doesn't suit her. She wants to know it's 4 minutes till noon, or 3 minutes till noon. A J personality will make plans, and good plans, for vacation. They want to know where they're going to stay, where they're going to get gas, maybe even where they're going to eat at every location. My daughter is a J personality. She has to have a plan, but she's flexible enough if the plan doesn't work out. That's okay, but that plan gives her comfort. A perceiving personality is someone that time doesn't matter that much to them. To say let's say it's 11:45, and I'll say, well, it's going on noon. That's fine. that's fine. A perceiving personality can get in the car and just drive off for vacation, maybe not even knowing where they're going, which is just terrifying to some people. When J personalities and perceiving personalities marry, this is the hardest place for them to get along. Because a perceiving person, well, it's no big deal. And for a J person, it's a big deal. We've got to make plans. But they can work it out. And also, I've read, well, I'm a P that was married to a J, and that was one place where we had some struggle. But I've read, let's say that two J personalities get married, one of them will probably become more of a P personality, even though they're both J's, and it will still cause some conversation in the relationship. So I think the Myers-Briggs is fascinating myself. Okay, slide 8. Let's say we have an extrovert and an introvert, and they both have teaching as their spiritual gift. An extrovert could lead a large Sunday school class, could do public speaking to teach things, where an introvert would be more comfortable with one-on-one teaching, small group discussions, just sitting with somebody and sharing knowledge or wisdom or information. So that's a way that extrovert and introvert can be lived out. The next slide, number 9, is sensing and intuition. Remember, the sensing person likes hands-on stuff, and intuitive just knows things that they don't even know how they know. Both of these have the gift of encouragement. A sensing person might like to do a letter writing ministry. They might come alongside people who need help in practical ways, like doing meals, missions, hands-on. I think of people that become aware of a family that's had some stressful situation, somebody in the hospital, so they'll set up a meal plan for people to sign up for. That would be a sensing person with the gift of encouragement. Under intuition, with the gift of encouragement, they might have a prayer ministry. They might have just an intuitive awareness, just like sitting in church and looking across the pew and seeing, there's something wrong with, they're not feeling right today. There's something going on with them. They might have a listening ministry or a ministry of visitation, going out to visit people. The next slide, we have thinking and feeling. They both have the gift of administration. Someone that's a thinking personality with the gift of administration, they might appreciate doing committee work and might often be the leader of the committee. There might be an office manager. They might do data entry, a communications director, a wedding or funeral coordinator, a member of trustees. Those are things in a church that a person might do that has the gift of administration. If you're a feeling person with the gift of administration, again, you might do committee work. You also might do new member welcome, be on a committee for new member welcoming, because you want to care about those new people in the church and make them feel welcome. Or maybe a new mother visitation, go visit new moms with new babies. And then we have slide 11, J personality and perceiving personality, both with a gift of healing. The J personality that likes structure and things done orderly, they might develop rituals or plan regular healing services in the church. They might assist folks in finding help they need to restore physical, mental, and spiritual health. They might set up an office in a church if the pastor's okay to offer those kinds of resources. Maybe they know in the community where to go for medical help. We have a place in Pratt, the Hope Center, where people can go to find out where to get medicine at a cheaper rate or even free. There's other things that the Hope Center offers as well. Circles, that was a reference to Circles of Hope in Pratt and there's other places around the country. It's a nonprofit that helps people that are in poverty, dealing with poverty, to help them move beyond where they are. A perceiving personality with a gift of healing might do spontaneous rituals, might just pray with people on the spot. They might be aware of needs of other people for prayer or hands-on healing. So those are spiritual gifts and personality traits. And I put the same spiritual gift, we could look at different healing gifts as well in all of those different categories. Again, it's a matter of knowing ourselves better, knowing who we are, how we function, what we enjoy, what's important to us in life, and how we live out our spiritual gifts based on that. On the 12th slide, we link our spiritual gifts to our personality traits, and it's much more complex than the last 4 slides. As I said, there's 4 components to our personalities, not just one. I am an introverted, intuitive, feeling, perceiving personality. I'm an INFP. And so I would take into consideration all of those 4 characteristics when I look at my spiritual gifts as well. I believe that taking the Myers-Briggs type indicator can be helpful, both personally and in the church. The first church I served, we did have a group of people that took the Myers-Briggs. And it was really helpful for them to sit in a committee where they sat in a committee with somebody that was a J personality that wanted to get things done. It's important to get things done now and do it in a structured way and get it done now. And a P personality, we gotta get more information. We don't have enough information to know what to do yet. And when those people found out how the other one functioned, they could talk to each other in different ways. So knowing these things about ourselves and other committee members was very, very helpful. You can find the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, online on the internet, and there's a lot of book resources as well. We can ask friends and family what they see in us, what are our strongest traits. As I said earlier, this can be scary. It also can be very enlightening. It's also, I think, good to take the spiritual gifts inventory and consider your top 3 gifts. My top gift was prophecy, and I just ignored that for years, because how could I be a prophet? My second one is pastor teacher, and my third one is prophecy. What did I say the first one was? Prophecy. The third one was wisdom. So claiming those is still, as you can tell, it's a little scary for me to say those out loud. But there are some great resources to study the gifts of the Spirit. Joining a group that wants to go deeper in understanding their own spiritual gifts is really a helpful thing. How we get ready to use our spiritual gifts once we figure out what they are is to learn about them, to learn our own, what they are, to accept responsibility for your gifts. I had a parishioner that she had a particular gift, but she didn't want to live it out because it was too scary. It was just way too scary for her. It was the gift of knowledge. And she was very knowledgeable. People came to her for that, but she couldn't claim it. It just wasn't in her head that she could claim that. And then get to work using the gifts. Be open to God's will in our lives, to ask God to help us find the courage to act on what we will discern about our gifts, to actually live them out through our passions, through our personality traits, to live out our spiritual gifts for the sake of the church, for the sake of Christ's church and the world. So that's my spiel on spiritual gifts. I've gone over time. You want to go on to the offertory and not